How's everybody doing tonight? I want to make a video this evening, and as usual, it's over something that's bothering me. Seems to be happening a lot the last couple of years, doesn't it? As a lot of you know that are conservatives, and maybe if you're liberal too, but that NewsMax was booted off of AT&T's DirectTV. NewsMax had 13 million more than 13 million viewers on DirectTV. It was an extremely rapidly growing news channel. I've been watching it here in northern Colorado for about the last little over a year. We get it here in this house on streaming internet TV, and I also was getting it, on my own TV via on-air TV, free TV, rabbit ears TV. There was a NewsMax channel there. It was called NewsMax 2, which was pretty cool because they showed a lot of history documentaries and stuff like that. It was actually pretty neat. That was taken off my television, free TV. It hasn't been taken off of the other main TV in this house. It's still on streaming web TV, over the internet. But those of you who subscribe to DirectTV, which is owned by AT&T, you obviously know that NewsMax was canceled, kicked off of there. Now, the excuse that DirectTV gives, and it is an excuse, it's not the truth. They're claiming that NewsMax wanted money. They wanted a payment for being on DirectTV, and DirectTV said, well, we're not going to pay you anything. That's we're not doing that. And so they use that as an excuse. It's really just a terrible, false excuse for kicking them off. And the reason we know that is because there's 20 some other channels on DirectTV, news channels of different types, and they all get a payment from DirectTV. And most of those channels have a way smaller audience than NewsMax did. NewsMax was growing like crazy. It was kind of like a competitor to Fox News, conservative leaning, and there was a market for this. They hit just at the right time. It came on television. I saw it, I don't know, about a year and a half ago maybe, and I'm like, wow, that's NewsMax TV. I pointed it out, and we started watching it here in this house because we don't get Fox here. So I saw it like, I don't know, it was about a year and a half ago, something like that, and I said, wow, that's NewsMax TV, because I've been reading NewsMax's website, their news website, for close to 15 years. I read tons of different news sites, NewsMax, townhall.com, Gateway Pundit. There's tons of them. There's BizPac, Review, Geller Report, and all of these are conservative. They're right-wing. Breitbart, of course, the left calls those misinformation sites, and they're not really. They just present a different viewpoint from what the left-wing Democrats say on their ABC, CNN, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, PBS, the normal channels that a lot of people have been watching for decades, or what's called, dinosaur media. Some of us call that dinosaur media because that's what our parents watched, who are now in their 80s and 90s. They watched ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, MSNBC, CNN, and I haven't watched most of those stations in years. Once in a while, I'll tune into, ABC or CBS, usually just for local news. I'll watch the local news just to see what's going on, but for the last 15, 18 years, or even 20 years, I started searching out conservative media because I could see that there was such a bias in the media that I was getting for the last 35 years. There was such a huge bias that was gave favor to liberal Democrats and highly criticized conservative Republicans, conservative libertarians, conservative Christians. And I noticed that a long time ago, way over 25 years ago. I was noticing that there was a huge bias in the traditional media, including television news, newspapers like the New York Times, the Denver Post, LA Times. I started noticing a huge liberal left-wing bias a long time ago, and so did millions of other people. Then all of a sudden, like about 28 years ago, 25 years ago, guys like Andrew Breitbart came up with a website, WorldNet Daily, which has been up for 20, 25 years, presented a Christian conservative viewpoint that you didn't hear. Fox News came along, about 25 years ago or so, that presented more of a conservative viewpoint with a little bit of liberal viewpoint mixed in. But then recently, I'd say in the last few years, maybe 7, 8 years, some other news channels started popping up, like NewsMax TV, One America Network, OAN, they popped up. There's some others that have popped up recently in the last, I'd say about 7 years. And so there's been an alternative for those of us who hold a conservative viewpoint, a more traditional, pro-America, traditional, patriotic viewpoint. And what's happened, of course, as most of you know, now in the last, I'd say 7 years, conservatives like myself have been getting kicked off of social media. We've been getting kicked off of, we were kicked off of Twitter. I was shadow banned on Twitter, I know I was. I've been in Facebook's jail for, 8, 9 times now. About 9 times, I think, in their ridiculous, stupid jail. I get fact checks on my Facebook posts pretty much daily, which means they move my posts down so nobody can see them. That's been going on for years. And their fact checks, I've fact checked Facebook's fact checks, which are all liberal fact-checking organizations. They're all liberal. They, again, have a liberal viewpoint on their fact checks. I fact-checked them. Even Snopes many times debunks the fact-checking and what the left-wing liberal media says about us conservatives, or about Trump, or about any conservative Christian or any Republican. I've seen even Snopes, left-wing Snopes, debunk Facebook's fact checks and liberal news sites. And they're on the same team. So I know that liberal news has been lying, and they've been lying for a long time. You've all heard of cancel culture. Well, that happened to me. The first cancel culture I ever came in contact with was I think it was about 8.5 years ago. I would get on ABC News' national website and start making comments there. I'd make comments on ABC News, their national website, when they even had comments. I don't even know if they have comments, because a lot of national news sites and local have completely gotten rid of comments. They don't even want comments. But anyway, I would make comments on ABC News' national website, and I would be maybe 1 out of 100, amongst 100 liberals, I'd be 1 conservative, 1 Republican. But I would get right in there in the mix and start, debating with and saying my conservative viewpoint? Well, guess what? ABC News banned me from their national news site this was 8 years ago. That was before they were even calling it cancel culture. That's the first time I had gotten kicked off of a news site. I mean, they basically crushed my speech. And those of you who are conservatives know that this is true. You know it's true. You've been shadow banned on Twitter. You know, was it the last 3 years? James Woods, the actor, was kicked off of Twitter. They just kicked him off. Thank God for Elon Musk. Thank God for him. I don't know that he's necessarily a conservative, but he's at least fair enough to allow those people back on Twitter that had been kicked off. They kicked off the President of the United States, for God's sake. So did Facebook. These people had the audacity to kick off the President of the United States, who was duly elected. Now, I want to ask those of you who are liberal Democrats, I have a serious question for you. You've read history. You know history of World War II. I was just reading some history just earlier tonight, and it was talking about the censorship of the Nazi regime, how they had censored and canceled and basically wiped out any news media that was from an anti-Nazi viewpoint. They completely wiped it out. Goebbels, you know, one of Hitler's right-hand men, he was in charge of media and art and news. You know, they didn't have television then, but they had radio. And what Goebbels did was he started canceling every news outlet, every newspaper, every news article on the radio that didn't align with Nazi propaganda. Now, I want to ask a serious question for my liberal Democrat friends. Who does that sound like? Many Democrats, and even the president himself, Joe Biden, has been calling us ultra-mega fascists. He got up on his podium in his dark red lighting, and he looked like he looked like a Nazi, frankly. He got up there and said, we need to crush the ultra-mega fascists. He was calling us, we've been called fascists for the last, 3 years, 2 years since Biden was elected. He's calling us ultra-mega fascists. But I ask you Democrats, who's acting like the fascists? Who are the people that are actually canceling speech? Who is it that runs cancel culture on campuses and now has gone out into the marketplace? Who is it that's canceling speech, suppressing speech? It's not us on the right. No, us supposed ultra-MAGA fascists. No. Who's canceling speech like the Nazis did? It's not us on the right, it's you on the left. And if you're honest, you'll admit it. NewsMax has just been kicked off of DirectTV. 13 million viewers just gone. Boom. And you say that that's fair? Really? Liberal Democrats used to be the champions of free speech. Remember Berkeley in the 60s? They'd go marching, free speech signs, you know. I've seen videos, and I was alive at that time. I was young. But liberal Democrats were the champions of free speech. Remember that day? Back in the Kennedy years? It was liberal Democrats who were the champions of free speech. Now they're the exact opposite. And if you're honest, you will admit that. Who are the people today that's canceling speech? It's not us on the right. Who are the people that are canceling NewsMax and OAN, One America Network? These companies like ATT and DirectTV are run by liberal Democrats. All the news, the legacy news media, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, PBS, they're all run by liberal Democrats, not by conservatives. They're not getting kicked off. Who are the people that are suppressing speech today? Is it us on the right? Is it those of us who voted for Trump? I don't think so. Who is it? It's the political left. We're not canceling speech. Elon Musk took control of Twitter, and he's trying to be fair there. He's allowed people like James Woods and other conservatives that had just gotten the boot completely kicked off of Twitter because they have a right-wing conservative viewpoint, and Musk is trying to be fair. He's let a lot of those people back on, and he's not canceling liberals either. And yet, if you listen to this president, we're supposed to be the ultra MAGA fascists. I call BS on that. Who is it that's canceling speech today? Is it us on the conservative right, or is it the political liberal left, who at one time were the champions of free speech? Who's kicking off NewsMax? Is it the owners of Fox News? Is it the owners of companies that are run by conservatives or conservative Christians? Are they the ones that are canceling speech? No. It's you on the left. If you're honest, you'll admit it. That's a fact. We're not acting like Nazis. We're not. Who are the ones canceling speech? It's the political liberal left today in America. And it's amazing to me because I used to be a Democrat. In the 70s, when I was in college, going to Colorado State University, I was a liberal Democrat. And the whole thing about college in those days, in 1976, 77, when I went to Colorado State, was all viewpoints were heard. All viewpoints were heard. That was the whole zeitgeist of that era, was that all viewpoints are heard, whether you disagreed or hated what somebody said, but all viewpoints were allowed on college campuses, and those days are completely gone. And I'll tell you what, it's not the political right, it's not the conservatives that have canceled speech, it's the liberal left. That's a fact. We're not the ones canceling speech on college campuses. It's not the political conservative right, it's the lefties. And if you're honest, you'll admit that too. And now it's out into the marketplace. Huge companies, AT&T, who gets government subsidies, are canceling networks that had 20-some million users. That's Nazi-like stuff, if you're honest. I hope you'll think about what I'm saying here and consider it. Thanks for watching.